Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It is December 2nd. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and it's really another range day, but we actually trended up from about just right, actually just after the regular session opening. We trended up pretty much to the close. As you can see, we ended up getting a measured move up on this range. And what you'd want to do on a range day is if once you break higher and you're convinced you're going higher, just measure the size of the range, move your measurement up, and lo and behold, we got a perfect measured move there. We're finding resistance at that spot. That would have been I mean, if you probably wouldn't want to ride this out on a runner, but if you caught a runner in here anywhere and we start heading toward this target, I usually want to get out just in front of that. So, and that would have been a great target for the day. But early on, we had this leg down, and then we were working on another leg down when 7 o'clock came right in here as we're moving up. So this looks really range-like, so you had to respect this support, but there's not really enough evidence right in here yet to say, hey, we're not going to go lower. So of course, measure this leg and move it over and look for a possible measured leg down. And so that would have kept you looking for shorts until we bounced here a couple more times and took higher. And then it's pretty obvious it's probably a range. So, and of course, really once we bounced here, we had this trend working up. And notice we got a little resistance up here, but we pushed on through and came back. And this trend line holds right here. And you got to be real careful getting long right in here. And you definitely don't want to enter in that stuff right there. And then we just got in this tighter stuff before we kind of turned down again. And so there weren't a lot of trades this afternoon, really much past 10 o'clock. There's just nothing happening. I mean, you probably sat there. You just can't enter in this stuff, this real tight stuff. There's maybe a trade or two here, and then you really just don't get an opportunity to even join this last of this move up to here. So if you didn't trade early today, you probably didn't get much. Either that or you probably had some problem trades as well. So anyway, let's back out and we'll talk about the trade. Okay, again, when I came in just at 7 o'clock, we're working up here, and that's generally when I always start the chart lesson, from 7 o'clock to 2 o'clock. That's my trading hours, and I feel it's pretty safe to trade from 7 o'clock to around 2 o'clock. And then if you're managing a trade after 2, that's fine, but don't enter any new trades after 2 o'clock because you just don't have much time, and most of your brokers will kick you out. Some of them as early as a quarter to 3, so you need to be careful. You don't want to get kicked out of a trade, enter a trade just in time to get kicked out. So generally my rule of thumb is you can trade safely from 7 a.m. Central Standard Time to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. You don't want to trade to anything past 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. So that's just kind of my rule of thumb. But let's talk about the trades here. We had the leg down. We started this second leg down. We came back, and you can clearly see we couldn't go higher. So we're looking at prices probably turning down here. They run down. They find support here again. But I mean, this was at yesterday. I mean, this was actually yesterday evening. 1900 is 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and this is at 7 o'clock the next morning. So you want to see this thing holding a couple more times here before you're going to trust that this is a range, basically. And you've got a little channel working down here. I'm not convinced that it's probably not like this. And we really never confirm. So it looks like maybe we get an overshoot and then we get the break. It really never confirms. It touches here and turns down, but you never get a trigger until here. But you're still going to, I mean, you can still obviously see that this is holding prices, and it looks like this is probably correct. And we get a little overshoot here, which leads to the break. But you would still expect a possibility to test this low. There's a hidden second entry here. Notice that low, and you move up, you come back. There's your first entry. You move up, you come, and when you break lower, there's your second entry. prices do not, for the new people, I hate to even talk about hidden second entries, but there's more advanced people watching. If you don't understand what I'm saying, just forget it. Don't worry about it. Don't let it confuse you. But if you went to a smaller chart, you would clearly see a break here and a second entry here. You're not going to see it on this chart. It's what I call a hidden second entry. So it's a little aggressive still. I marked it green. Pretty good signal bar. So it's really two legs back to the EMA. It's the first break of this. So we'll probably try to come back down here and test this low. So you may take that short. You're better to wait on the lower high, which comes right here. And by the way, you actually have a high and you go higher once, you come back and you go higher twice. So you have a failed second entry long there as well. It looks a little bit congestive, but you still got plenty of room to get out here if you go short here. And this turns out to be a pretty good move. Then you come back and you get this is basically a lower high off a double top. And you could actually look at this as a first entry, second entry as well on a little larger picture. So I still like that one. You're probably going to trap people trying to get long here. And sure enough, it runs on down real quick. And then we bounce here. Not a very good signal bar, but when we break lower right there, you may not be able to see this, but it breaks lower one tick below that, creates a little double bottom, turns and goes out the other side on an engulfing bar. That's a nice little short trap. Now you made this low at 6, almost 7 o'clock, and then within an hour and a half you get a double test of it. And this is basically a double bottom or a higher low. And so basically you got a triple test across there. And I like entering above this little small bar because it makes it very low risk. I mean, that's 5 ticks. And if you put, your stop would technically have to go below this low right here, which turns out to be the same as this one on an engulfing bar. Now, if you waited for this bar to close and enter, then your stop just goes below it. But when you enter on an engulfing bar, you have to go to the last swing for your stop until this bar closes. Because sometimes they'll move up and down and they might make a slightly lower low, and you don't want to get stopped out on that with it moving up and down. So you have to go below the previous swing to get your for your safety stop and to be protected by a previous swing low or whatever. So anyway, I like entering one tick above here when it breaks above that, and again your stop goes below here. And if you wanted, you could wait to here. It's getting a little close to the EMA, but I still think you're probably all right entering there. And this turns out to be a pretty good move. You get a higher low here, but you can see all that previous resistance right across there. You can't go long into that. And it does just break higher and fail. And there's actually a second entry short when it breaks lower there, but that bar's too bullish. So you get a lower high here, but it's right into the EMA, and you got support there. But when it breaks higher again and fails, now you got a failed second entry long. I like going short there. Now you got a trap, and you can see how quickly it moves down. And they actually break it lower here, run the stops, come back and test this support area, and then it goes higher. But notice you got a low, and you get a first entry, then you go higher, and you come back and make another low, and you get a second entry there that fails. But it looks a little congestive, but this is just basically, this is not rejection, but it's basically prices are not able to go lower multiple times. And you'd get a little failed second entry short and a nice bullish bar. If it breaks higher, we're probably going to take off. So I like that as a short trap, basically. And off it goes. And you could really look at this almost as a second entry. Notice this swing high, and you get a first entry, second entry. It's not a new swing high for the most part. We did try to go higher here and made a little double top, but you're stretching a little bit. But it's still, if a pattern looks like something we trade and is setting up in the right place, generally it'll work like the pattern will. So I like treating that as a second entry long as well. And off it goes. You get a higher low here and a failure here, but you're way too far away from the EMA. Notice how it doesn't go much further. And notice you get a break and new high. There's a lower high here, but you can see that support, and there's just not much room. And notice what happens. It almost fails. It actually does fail temporarily. And then you get a failed breakout on this side, and then you get a higher low here. And as long as you got enough room to get out before getting back to these highs, and actually you broke a little higher here, so you probably could use this last swing here as your highs. I would honestly, I would still play this, and I'd want room to get out. So even if you don't have room there, you might let this break higher and then drop a limit order in there and see if it'll back up a tick or two. And it did, and that would have given you plenty of room to get out before here. So sometimes there's alternative entry ideas. Just don't let it move too far before it comes back, because if it moves all the way up here and comes back, it could take off down to the downside then. It doesn't in this case, but it could. And you can just see we're working in this little range. You can't enter in that. We finally break higher, and we come back to these highs that we'd been making. And it looks like it's going to turn down. You get a little failed breakout. You do get a lower high here, but hopefully you were paying attention to this trend line and also this sideways stuff here. You can see all that support right there. So you don't want to go short right into that support and this support too, even though you got a little resistance with the EMA there. And it fails quickly and turns up. I like this for a long if you had a decent signal bar, but you just don't get one. It's a high or low. It's a second entry long, but it's such a neutral bar, and that's just congestion. So unfortunately, you got to watch this one go, and it's a quick move up, and then we're working sideways again. There's just nothing in there. There's nothing here you want to take because the trend is to the upside. So we're only looking for longs at this point. Look at the EMA, how everything's changed. Look at the EMA pointing straight up. You got a trend line here. That's a trend. I mean, we may find resistance up here and turn down again, but until all that plays out, you got to play this as a trend to the upside. I would say at this point the range is still in play, so you got to be real careful. So as you can see, there's just really nothing here because there's not a good long setup, but you definitely don't want to go short because of the uptrend. And it's still a range day. The range just happened to expand. And so anyway, there's just no entries here. So nothing you can do. You just watch it, and then it comes up here, and then we're just back. And I mean, it's just, you can't trade this really. It's too dangerous. You'll get stopped out in both directions. It was real tempting. If we'd have got a smaller bar here, it's an inside bar, but it makes matching highs. So if it closed much smaller than this, then and you had room to get out before here, you could take that trade, because now you got a break of this trend channel and really two legs up to a new high, plus you got a failed break out of this trading range across here. So there's reasons to take that short if you get a better setup than that. It's not a very good setup on mine. You get a lower high here, too bullish, and then finally you get a failed second entry long, and it's a breakout pullback short as well. So when this breaks higher and fails and turns down, you're probably going to trap people. I like that trade. And you could almost look at this as a failure too, because it does confirm the trend line. It's just a first entry though. It does break higher and fail and turn down like it's an engulfing bar. So it looks like two legs. You can clearly see two legs down. So that's a second entry. It looks like a second entry. So it's probably going to act like a failed second entry. So that is another one that you might trade. And it confirms the trend line. I'm going to make it green though. It's a little bit aggressive. And then of course we run on down and we just reverse. You don't really get a break, but there's clues coming that we're going to reverse. Notice how we don't get back down to the lower side here, and then we make a double bottom, and we're just kind of going sideways, and then you get a little failed breakout, and then it takes off. And unfortunately, you don't get a chance to enter until way up here, and now you're right back in the middle of the range without any room, and you get basically a doji. And you don't want to use that for a signal bar. It's just a one bar trading range. It works, but next time it won't. Now you got two legs up, and you get a little two-legged correction there. It doesn't break higher, but there's still two legs down. Hopefully you can see that. There's the move down, correction, second leg down. and you do make a higher low here. This is right into the 2 o'clock hour, but if we break higher here, you're probably going to move to try to attempt to make a new high. Notice it goes just enough to get a new high, and then we just kind of work sideways again. And that's perfect price action, really. This signal bar is not perfect. It pretty much closes in the top 1/3. It's real close, but it's a higher low. The only problem I've got is the signal bar is not perfect, and it's really close to 2 o'clock, so I just marked it green. I figured people would probably ask me about it. And it may look a little slightly different on your chart. If you get a little better signal bar, I'd be okay with it being blue almost if it wasn't right at 2 o'clock. But anyway, the morning was pretty good, but after about 10 o'clock, there's just not much there. You got one for sure trade after 10 o'clock, and the other, you got a couple of, I mean, there's just no way to trade that. And I wouldn't waste my time trying to get this either. I mean, if you enter in there, you just get chopped up until it stops you out, and then it goes back where you thought, and just don't try to enter in that stuff. Same thing right here. It's just congestion. And that's pretty much going to do it. So again, I talked about the two measured moves, and that's another clue. When we test this many times and can't come down and make this measure move, that is an indicator that we'll probably go further in the other direction. And again, once we break out up here and it's clear we're going higher, just look for a measured leg like that and move it up, and lo and behold, that's where we went to. We actually pushed a little bit higher, and that's probably people just exiting at the close, people having to get out, close their trades out. But anyway, pretty good trading morning, very, very slow afternoon if you didn't trade this morning. But I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again tomorrow. Believe it or not, tomorrow's Thursday. I don't know where the time is going. Christmas is going to be here in a blink. So we'll talk about that. I'll probably take the last 2 weeks of the year off, but we'll talk about that as we get closer to it. I'm going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.